Welcome back to Let's Make a Game. In this video I would like to introduce you to and briefly discuss a website for generating AI art which I discovered recently. The website is mage.space, that's M-A-G-E .S-P-A-C-E, and I'll also put a link in the description. As with most AI artwork sites, it's a very simple interface. You just have a text window and you enter what you want, and then you press return and it starts generating. There are other options down here, but in my experience you could probably ignore them and just use the text window. Now, this site, in my experience, gives the closest results to what was in my mind. Now, obviously that is a very subjective thing and it may not be true for you just because it's true for me. And I would say that you will get a problem that exists with all AI websites, which is that it tends to pick up the individual words but not necessarily the relationship between them. So in this case, female superhero, I've said with green skin. Well, it's obviously picked up on green, but it hasn't sort of related it to skin. It doesn't realise that green is only to refer to the skin and not the costume. Also, as you can see in this particular case, her hair is a bit weird. It sort of starts from the front of her face. So let's try that same prompt again. You may have to try things sort of 2 or 3 times to get what you want, and you may have to tweak the prompt to get what you want. But on the whole, I found that it gives sort of what I consider to be high quality results. Again, with the caveat that that's very subjective. After a while, it will see that one's a bit more like what I would consider a superhero to look like. The only problem I can see there is that green spot on the chin. I would probably try and Photoshop that to be flesh coloured. But let's try a third time just so we get a better selection. The pictures that it gives you by default are quite big. They're over 1,000 pixels. If you're looking for pictures to be portraits or illustrations of items, stuff like that for your game, it's going to be big enough for most purposes. Now you can upgrade. It's one of those sites that's free, but then you can get a paid account that gives you more features. I think the free account is good enough, certainly for the purposes that I would use it for. After a few goes, it will ask you for your email address or your Google account or your Twitter account, and then it will do the thing that most websites do where it sends you a link to your email and you have to click on that to log in. It still seems to be free. It doesn't seem to be one of those things that's free for a while and then they say, okay, now you've got to pay. So far, it hasn't sent me any messages on my email, even though it's taken my email address, and it hasn't charged me any money. So it seems to be, the free accounts seem to be sort of free forever unless they decide otherwise. Of course, this is a very volatile sector, and so things might change, but it does seem like it's genuinely free for now, which is good. I should say that as with any AI, or at least as with anyone that uses this, I think this uses the Stable Diffusion model, and the Stable Diffusion model is trained on art, a lot of which is copyrighted. There is an ethical issue with that. Like if I put H.R. Geiger, if you know H.R. Geiger, he's a Swiss artist that's no longer alive, probably most famous for designing a lot of the creatures and things in the Alien/Aliens series. Some people have an ethical problem with using his style. They see it as sort of stealing. In terms of results, that's pretty good. I mean, you would definitely say, I think, that that's in the style of H.R. Geiger. personally, I feel like I wouldn't like to do this with a living artist, but I would feel okay doing it with a dead artist. I think because I feel like the rights of an artist to their own creativity is one thing, but then the rights of like a company that happens to have bought the rights to the art that someone else made is another, and it feels less unethical. It feels fine. I don't know if I can justify that rationally, but that's sort of how I feel. You may feel different. Some people just refuse to use it altogether, and that's perfectly fine. But that is an issue. There's also sort of, although the American Copyright Office, I'm not sure exactly what the entity's called, but the entity that deals with copyright law and intellectual property law in the US has issued guidance that says that as far as they're concerned, AI generated art is public domain because there's no individual creating it. So therefore you can use it freely with no worries. There are sort of court cases. There is particular artists have sued particular particular AI companies, and the results of that court case aren't known. So it may change. At the moment, the guidelines are you can use this freely, without any without any legal worries, but it might change. So that is mage.space. I would say that it is the best results. The only caveat I would put on that is that Artbreeder, which is one that I discussed in a previous video, has the ability to tweak the results that you have. With this one, you create a picture and you just have to start again if you don't like it. You can't sort of nudge it slightly. You, at least not with a free account. You have to either just try again with the same prompt or tweak the prompt slightly in the hope that that will fix the problem that you have. But apart from that problem, this one seems to give the best results. And if you are going to use AI art, it's the one that I would recommend for most purposes. So I hope that was of use or interest to at least some of you, and I hope that you will tune in next time.